But I've had horses in my life since I was 11. And when I was 14, I was already showing other people's horses. By the time I was 16, I mean, it was just like, it just grew real fast.
When I was 1.5 years old, she'd put me on the back of a little pony and take the pony for her morning walk.
Not only did I love them, but I was pretty good at them.
I got more and more into it the older I got, and older I mean 8 years old.
It's fascinating how sensitive they are.
And when I was 18, I went off and did internships with different training professionals, from dressage Paralympian to cow horse and cowboy trainers.
Our daughter Julia has been very involved, and she actually takes students to even higher levels.
Can't remember ever not having been on a horse.
That's what keeps me in them now. My name is Christine Wertz.
And my name is Julia Wertz.
And this is our advice. Her name is Destiny, and she is my destiny as far as how we began Harmony Horsemanship Center. We try to enrich the lives of horses as well as the lives of humans. What we do here most is we work with beginners, people who have never ridden a horse. They're either interested, whether it's children, adults. We like to teach the basics first, and just so people understand how to be safe. So we're always talking about safety. And then we want our riders to have fun. And then we want them to realize that there's so many different directions they can go with their horsemanship. Because some people are not aware of any of this, but for some reason they have a draw to the horse. They realize that horses have a wonderful connection with humans. And that's the part I love the most. I would say most of the people that come here and want to be introduced to horses, number one, their goal is to ride and be safe, have fun, ride, and learn more. Learn, what can I do with a horse? And that's where Julia really helps a lot, because she is so diverse in what she does with horses.
And I just wanted to demonstrate, give a little bit of advice on what to do when you first get a horse in your hands to lead them around. So again, I like to keep that lead rope folded in one hand. Most horses are most comfortable with leading from your right side or their left, just because most people are right-handed. That's kind of how they go with just muscle memory. And then I like to give that horse about an arm's length distance. Most people want to feel like they're in control, so they grab a hold right underneath their snap, and your horse is kind of like grabbing you by the collar. They don't like that very much, or just feels claustrophobic. And if you're not super comfortable with your lead rope and how to control your horse from a distance, much farther away than an arm's length just becomes a little bit much to handle. But that's right about where I want it. I always think about that personal space bubble that I have. So no matter how spooky or lazy he's feeling or somewhere in between, I can always ask him to say, hey, I need you to get a feel off of this rope and come with me. Or, hey, now I think you're a little bit too close to me. I'm going to wave my hands up and down and see if you pay attention, and then I'll let that rope wave up and down. So I have just that visual representation of, having my space bubble here. If he goes and walks his nose right into that, I didn't slap him, he just walked into it. And same thing, I can ask him to back up off of just wiggling that rope and bringing my energy up a little bit to create that kind of force field there. If I've never handled a rope before in my life, or maybe before I hooked it up to my horse and expected myself to be real keen with it, I would kind of get just used to being able to fold this rope one hand into one hand or the other and shorten up, and just all this kind of sliding around stuff that doesn't look like much. Once you put that horse on the end of it, it can start to feel really cluttery. So when I go to lead him here, one of the biggest things people try to avoid, and I'm just going to set him across here a little bit. One of the biggest things people try to avoid is turning their horse to the right. So as I come forward, as I go to turn him around, I'll just let my hand come underneath his chin, or bring my hands up, or maybe even both, to give that visual representation to both of us of here's my space bubble. I don't need you to walk out ahead of me, but we're going over this way or wherever it is, and just having each of our bubbles there respected. Being very clear in what you want to have happen. Not, I hope this works out well, but we're going to go do this together. Really sets a precedence for your horse that they can feel that energy off of you, and they'll really give you honest feedback about your leadership skills. When you go to get on your horse, one of the biggest ways that people can get in a wreck or have a bad experience with their horse is just by not properly preparing how they're going to step up on that horse or make the right moves as they're mounting. So one of the first things I'm going to do, always check that your cinch is tight or your girth, depending on if you're in an English or Western saddle, and to make sure that this just all feels secure. Make sure nothing is dry rotted, broken out, anything like that. And then I'm going to take my reins and get him quite a bit shorter here. I'm going to ask him to have his attention just kind of straight ahead instead of looking around at everybody. And then I'm going to do a little extra step here and take my saddle and pull on it until see how he just pulled back there? So now that he's saying, okay, I'm ready to pull you up, I'm going to do that one more time just to make sure, just because we got a little bit of hustling and bustling going on in here he's kind of interested in. So I got my reins not pulling on him, but short enough I'm 1 inch away from being able to ask him to stop or back up. And now I'm going to push my stirrup away from me so I don't have to go to gymnastics just to get my foot in the stirrup. Now here I can wait a second, and he's distracted by the mini horse. So he's backing around. Now I didn't really like how he lost his focus there, so I'm just going to pull him back up here a little bit. Say, hey, I need you to keep your feet where I asked you to have them in the first place. Okay, and then same thing. Gonna take a pull on my saddle here, so I'm getting my back towards you. And put a little push, little pull. He's going, I wasn't very ready to pull you up at all there because I wasn't focused on it. Okay, and once he sets these feet wider apart, that's what I'm looking for. Then he's ready. He's saying, okay, I have my balance ready now. Push that stirrup away from me. Get my toe up in there. The tricky part's spinning around to this position right here. Girl. And then I'll step up on him. And just in those first few lessons, the things I really like to go over is that same concept, leading, being confident on the ground, confident in the saddle, with how to use your reins, how to use your leg and your focus to ask your horse to go. Turning your horse left, right, stop, back up, so that, hey, if I go to get him, if you wanted to end up owning a horse, you could go get him out of the pasture and not have to, have him standing there saddled up and ready to go for you every day. As I want to ask my horse to stop or back up, I'll just pick my hands up a little bit, almost pretend like I'm going to put a wall up in front of his nose. So I'll pick my hands up and let my heels be nice and deep. And that kind of continued motion right there is enough to be clear to them that that's what you want. Now, how soft your horse is in that back up, that's part of practicing and getting the feel for it. But I can bump my legs a little bit to ask him to walk forward. I can pick my hands up and make sure my heels are deep, my seat is relaxed, to ask him to back up or stop and back up. So just testing out the brakes before I get going fast is not a bad thing to try out there before you get to know your horse at higher speeds. When I go to ask my horse, go left, right, lead off anywhere I want, I always want to look up for where I want to be and essentially let your hands follow your eyes. So here as I look up across to my left, I'll let my left hand follow, my right hand support. And if I need to ask my horse to move forward off my leg, I'll just think about a nice light bumping motion. You can see I'm even bumping to ask him to walk a little bit faster here. And then I'll let it relax whenever he finds that speed that I'm comfortable with or that I'd like to ask of him. Same thing, heels down and forward, hands up, and I'll look off to my right, let my hands follow him, or follow my eyes to the right there. And that just helps make it real clear to him where I want him to go. And to repeat that process in a higher gait, I just bump my legs, maybe give them a little cluck. And if I want to keep this in a circle, I'll just keep looking across my right shoulder. I'm focused on exactly where I want that track to be. And I'll let my right hand mostly lead, my left hand support a little bit. Ooh. And when I want them to stop, say a little whoa. A lot of horses understand that, a lot of horses don't, but something I like to just pepper in there to make it extra clear what I'm looking for. And that same thing, build a wall in front of the nose, heels down here, and let that seat relax. That's just kind of, if you can get your left, your right, your forward and your stop, and you're even a bit reverse going, you got a pretty good handle on your vehicle. They're not like dirt bikes or four-wheelers where everything's smooth. They got that different rhythm in each gait. So one thing I teach right off the bat, or we teach right off the bat, is posting your trot. So their trot has an up and down rhythm, and we like to teach people how to stand up and sit softly with each rhythm there. So I always tell people it's like a million little squats. So it's a good leg workout, but it really smooths out the ride for you and your horse. And then from there you can ask your horse up into a lope. And a lot of it is just building that good balance in your seat, as well as good focus. Your left, right, stop. Those are very important, and your go. So right out of the starting gates, that's the baseline stuff I like to see happen with students and be able to teach there. When I'm on my horse here and I'm thinking about, okay, where am I going to go and how fast am I going to get there? I think about they have three main gaits, and that's the type of movement that they're in. So their walk is just straightforward as it sounds. Their trot is just like our jog, and their lope, or canter if you're in an English saddle, is almost like a skip. So it's not a flat out run. That would be their gallop. But so you got your walk, your trot, or jog, and their lope, or their almost kind of a single leg skip here. So I'm just gonna look across here and demonstrate his walk. I want to have a good focus where I'm going. Same thing, my hands are following my eyes. Imagine that little track I want right here. Now when I ask him to trot, here I'm in a sitting trot, which just means that my seat is not leaving the saddle if everything's working well in that sitting trot. And I'll do a posting trot here. So as my horse speeds up their trot, or I'm going to trot all day long, I'm gonna stand and sit with that bouncing motion that he has here to help make it more comfortable for both of us. So that posting trot is one of the first things we like to teach, so that as you're moving up and getting comfortable with your horse, you never go, oh my gosh, this trot's getting fast, and get bouncier and bouncier, and all of a sudden knocking yourself or your horse off balance there in that sitting trot. So here I'll bump him up to a lope. And this lope is, I always describe the motion as kind of got a washing machine motion in it. But this is between our trot and our gallop. We have this cute little gait right here. Ooh. And that's a stop and a reverse. So just as a demonstration on those three main gaits that you're going to ride your horse in, most typically until you take them to the races and opening up that gallop, that's your walk, your trot, and your lope. Or again, the lope has another name, as the canter in an English saddle. So as I go to dismount my horse, I want to do the same thing I would do getting on, as make sure everything's organized. Sometimes you might even be wise to wiggle your saddle back and forth to make sure it didn't loosen a little bit as you ride. And then I'll keep my reins short enough that I'm only about an inch away from asking them to be able to stop or back up. And do a little wiggle check there, put my hand down on his mane. Always want to make sure you only have a little bit of your toe committed to your stirrup as you go to get off. Because if I step down on the ground, I got my whole foot in there, all of a sudden I better hope my horse stands still while I get untangled from him. So just a little bit of toe. I'll lean forward with my belly button kind of over my saddle horn, and I'll swing my leg all the way over. Try not to toe him, drag your toe across his butt. And then from here I can even put my weight in the center. If you really want to make sure your foot's in a good safe place, you can pop it out here and just slide down your horse. There seems to be a gap in riders where, you know, you're starting out, whether they're a little older, whatever, you're starting out and, okay, I'm on this horse, something's happening, we're doing something, but they're not quite sure what it is that they want to have happen. Even if they know they want to walk around in a circle, they're not really focused on, we're walking this circle, we're doing this, or we're going up the trail. And then they kind of go, okay, I need to figure out how to focus on what I'm doing in a way that this horse is going to understand me. And then once they figure out how to really aim their focus where they're going and saying, we're doing this, and we're gonna have a nice time doing it, then they just skyrocket. You go from thinking everything seems so hard and so advanced and here I am, to, oh yeah, we just did it, because of course it would work. Hope you enjoyed our video and got some good tips and advice out of it for making your next decision on if you'd like to get involved with riding a horse, or maybe even a piece of information for a horse you already have or already are working with. We enjoyed making this video and hope you enjoy watching it.